"Don't touch that engine," Walter Pike snapped, his voice cutting through the small garage as muddy water dripped from bus 214 onto Marcus Reed's face. Marcus lay beneath the rear compartment with one shoulder pressed against cold concrete while his 10-year-old daughter, Nia, held a flashlight above him with both hands. Outside, Friday rain rattled against the metal roof. Inside, the flooded school bus groaned as the tow truck lowered its weight onto the shop floor. Children's worksheets clung to the wet steps. A red lunchbox rested beneath the first seat, its cartoon astronaut blurred by rainwater. Walter entered beside Grant Vale, the polished owner of Vale Transit Parts, and Dean Harlan, Marcus's boss. "The bus is finished. Water killed the control system. Sign the loss report and move on." Their words came fast, clean, final. Marcus remained still beneath the engine, listening to water strike the drain pan one drop at a time. Nia's flashlight trembled across 4 bright bolt heads, holding the engine control module in place. They looked newer than everything around them. Marcus slid out slowly. He was 39, broad-shouldered from years of lifting transmissions, but there was nothing theatrical in the way he moved. He wiped rainwater from his cheek and looked at Walter. "Who inspected it?" Walter folded his arms. "I did. Did you open the module?" "There was no reason." Grant stepped forward with a sympathetic smile, the kind that belonged at fundraisers and ribbon cuttings. "Mr. Reed, sometimes the kindest thing is accepting reality. My company can help the district replace this bus before the children lose their route." Marcus glanced toward the open passenger door. Jefferson Public School served families spread across nearly 7 miles of rural county roads. Without bus 214, some children would miss class. Grant continued softly. "We can turn a bad situation into a fresh start." Marcus crouched beside the engine compartment. The mud line stopped nearly 3 inches below the control module connector. The wiring harness was damp, but the inside edge of the plug looked strangely dry. More important, each mounting bolt carried a clean crescent, mark where a wrench had recently bitten into the metal. Marcus reached for his phone and began taking pictures. Walter's expression hardened. "I told you not to touch it." "I'm not touching it." "Then stop documenting it." The garage became quiet except for the rain and the clicking of Marcus's camera. Dean lowered his voice. "Marcus, I gave you this job when nobody else would. Don't make this difficult." Marcus looked at him. He remembered every late shift, every missed dinner, every Sunday morning spent keeping Dean's struggling garage alive. He also remembered what dignity cost when a man was expected to repay opportunity with silence. "I'm not signing a cause of failure I haven't verified." Walter laughed once. "You're a mechanic, not an investigator. Today, I'm the mechanic standing closest to the truth." Nia lowered the flashlight toward the floor. Something silver had fallen into the shallow water beneath the bus. "Dad, what's that?" Marcus used a clean pair of tweezers to lift the torn piece of adhesive label. 2 dark characters remained visible beneath the grease. 6C. Grant's smile disappeared for less than a second. Walter pointed toward the bus. "That lot 6C box isn't worth wasting another minute on." Marcus looked up. No one had opened the module. No one had read the hidden label. He sealed the silver fragment inside a clear parts bag and wrote the time across the top. Walter cleared his throat. "I meant whatever flooded box is in there." Marcus stood between him and the bus. "Water can kill an engine. Water doesn't loosen for bolts, replace a label, and tell you the lot number before the box is opened." Dean ordered the bus moved outside for disposal at sunrise. Marcus walked to his old pickup, started it, and parked directly in front of bus 214. Then he returned with his toolbox. Nia shone her light toward a stack of unopened Vale Transit cartons in the corner of the garage. Every box carried the same printed mark. Lot 6C. Marcus did not accuse anyone that night. Accusations were easy, and easy things rarely survive daylight. He photographed every carton marked Lot 6C, wrote down the time, and locked his tools in the cab of his pickup before driving Nia home through the rain. The storm had weakened to a gray mist by the time they passed Jefferson Public School, but the front entrance was still crowded. Parents stood beneath umbrellas while a district employee handed out printed notices. Nia leaned toward the window. Those are kids from Route 7. I know. How will they get to school? Marcus did not answer right away. He parked near the curb and stepped into the cold air. The notice said Bus 214 had suffered catastrophic flood damage. The route would be suspended for at least 6 weeks because no replacement vehicle was available in the current budget. One mother stared at the page and asked how her 2 children were supposed to travel nearly 7 miles each morning. The district employee lowered his voice. Families will need to make temporary arrangements. Marcus looked across the parking lot at children standing beside wet backpacks and worried parents. He had spent years repairing machines, but he knew this problem was no longer only mechanical. Nia slipped her hand into his. Dad, can you fix it? Marcus looked down at her. I can find out whether it can be fixed. 20 minutes later, his pickup rolled back into Harlan Auto. Dean was closing the side door when Marcus approached. I am not asking for paid hours, Marcus said. I want permission to preserve the bus and run a basic diagnosis. Dean shook his head. Walter gave an order. Walter does not own the garage. No, but the school district pays our bills. Then let me protect the truth before someone bills them for another bus. Dean glanced toward Nia waiting inside the pickup. His expression softened for a moment, then closed again. You have until midnight. No parts replaced. No road test. No promises. Marcus nodded once. Inside, he placed floor fans near the open compartments, labeled every connector, and recorded the condition of each wire before cleaning it. He used low air pressure to dry the harnesses and checked resistance across the main circuits. Nia sat on a stool near the workbench, eating half a peanut butter sandwich and watching her father write times into a yellow notebook. At 9:17, the side door opened. Evelyn Price stood there in the same damp coat she had worn earlier. She carried a faded blue logbook against her chest. I thought you might need this, she said. Marcus wiped his hands and opened the book. Each page contained dates, mileage, warning lights, and short notes written in careful block letters. 4 times in 3 weeks, the engine had lost power without warning. 3 times, Evelyn had reported the problem. One page held a copy of a maintenance form stamped received by the fleet office. Walter Pike had signed the bottom. Marcus looked up. Did the garage ever see this? Not from me, Evelyn said. Dean stepped closer. The school never sent us any complaint. Marcus placed the stamped form on the workbench. Dean stared at Walter's signature, then looked away. Evelyn studied Marcus. What happens if you cannot save the bus? Marcus returned to the engine compartment. Then the families deserve to know what actually ended it. She held out a folded $20 bill. For your time. Marcus closed her hand around it. Keep it. Pay me by remembering exactly what happened. Evelyn watched him for a long moment, then slowly removed a small memory card from her coat pocket. She did not give it to him. Not yet. Marcus connected his personal scan tool to the diagnostic port and waited while the damaged module surrendered what data remained. A timestamp appeared beside the final communication failure. 4:18 in the afternoon. Marcus checked it twice. Evelyn stepped closer. That cannot be right. What time did you enter the flooded underpass? She did not hesitate. 4:36. I called dispatch before I drove in. The garage became still. Rain ticked against the roof. The official report said water killed the engine, but the engine control module had stopped communicating 18 minutes before the bus touched the flood. By 7 o'clock Saturday morning, Dean Harlan had locked the diagnostic cabinet and placed Marcus Reed's time card inside his desk. You are suspended without pay. For checking a timestamp? For ignoring a direct order. Marcus stood beneath the pale shop lights while the rainwater beneath bus 214 reflected the ceiling in broken silver lines. Dean kept his voice low, almost fatherly, as though kindness could soften what he was doing. You are raising a daughter alone. Do not turn one dead bus into the reason she loses her home. Marcus looked toward the office window. Nia sat inside with her school backpack at her feet, pretending to read while listening to every word. The rent was due Monday. The refrigerator at home was nearly empty. Dignity did not erase bills, and truth did not promise groceries. Then the bay door opened, and Grant Vale entered carrying a clean cardboard box. His coat was dry despite the weather. His smile was calm, generous, prepared. "I heard the district has a transportation problem." "The district has an evidence problem," Marcus said. Grant placed the box on the workbench. Inside was a new engine control module wrapped in clear plastic. "My company will donate this. No charge for the part. No charge for delivery. Install it. Sign that the original failed because of floodwater, and the children may have their route back by Monday." "What happens to the original module?" "We dispose of it properly." "Why?" "Because damaged electronics are a liability." Marcus studied the box. It looked like an answer to every problem pressing against him. One signature could save his job, protect the garage, and perhaps return the bus to service. Grant leaned closer. "There is no shame in accepting help." Nia entered quietly and placed Marcus's lunch beside him. It was the other half of the peanut butter sandwich from the night before. She did not tell him what to do. She only said, "You forgot this, Dad." Marcus looked at her small hands, then at the module Grant wanted removed. "I will inspect the original first." Dean stepped forward. "With what equipment?" "I locked the cabinet." Marcus opened his personal toolbox. "With mine." He positioned his telephone above the workbench, started a continuous recording, and asked Evelyn Price to stand where she could see his hands without blocking the camera. He photographed the seal, the bolt marks, and the connector before removing the cover. The screws released too easily. Inside, the circuit board told a quieter story. Then the men around it. There was one concentrated burn near the processor, but no broad mineral staining, no dried mud, and no water trail spreading across the board. A protective coating had been cut away in a narrow rectangle. The firmware label did not match the part listed on the school district invoice. Marcus connected his scan tool and waited. A processor failure code appeared on the display. Grant spoke from across the room. "That code can appear after water exposure." Marcus did not move. "What code?" Grant's expression remained smooth. "I assumed it would be processor failure." "The screen is facing away from you." For the first time, Grant's smile looked borrowed. "Professional experience." Marcus turned the display toward Evelyn, then read the code aloud. It matched the final failure stored at 4:18 Friday afternoon, 18 minutes before the flooded underpass. Dean whispered, "That still does not prove sabotage." "No," Marcus said. "It proves the official explanation is incomplete." Grant pushed the new module toward him. "Take the solution while it is still available." Marcus sealed the original module inside a clear evidence bag and wrote the time across the closure. "I do not need you to believe me. I need this box to speak for itself." Dean warned that removing it from the garage would be reported as theft. Marcus left it on the workbench, signed the seal with Evelyn, and copied the data for an independent diesel technician at the community college. Then Nia pointed toward the silver label on the module cover. "Dad, the edge is a different color." Marcus raised a magnifying glass. Beneath the visible label, a second layer of adhesive formed a perfect hidden border. Marcus did not peel the label. A clue handled carelessly could become a rumor, and a rumor could be dismissed before Monday morning. He placed the module beneath 3 cameras, one from his telephone, one from Evelyn Price's dashboard camera, and one from the garage security system that Dean claimed was still working. Then he called Helen Ward, the attendance secretary from Jefferson Public School, and asked her to witness the seal. "Why me?" "Because you have no reason to. Protect the garage, the fleet office, or me." Helen arrived 20 minutes later carrying a legal pad and the cautious expression of someone who understood that ordinary people often paid the highest price for official mistakes. Marcus photographed the silver label again, recorded the time, and asked each witness to state her name. He warmed the adhesive with a small service dryer set below 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Slowly, the false label lifted from the metal cover. No one spoke. Beneath it was a second serial number, partly scratched but still readable beneath the shop light. Victor, Tango, Sierra, 6, Charlie, 2-1, for 9. Helen read carefully. Marcus wrote it down exactly. He sent the photograph and the original invoice number to Professor Calvin Rhodes, a certified diesel electronics instructor at the County Community College. The reply came 12 minutes later. The serial prefix belonged to a recalled production batch. Lot 6C had been removed from approved service after repeated processor failures. Marcus looked at the district invoice. It claimed Bus 214 had received a factory-certified module from Lot 9A less than 6 months earlier. So the paperwork says one part, Evelyn said. But the bus carried another. That is what the numbers show, Marcus replied. We still need to know who put it there. He sealed the false label in a separate evidence pouch, placed the module inside a numbered bag, and asked Evelyn and Helen to sign across the closure. Dean watched from the office doorway. His face had lost the irritation it wore that morning. Now it carried something quieter. Fear. Evelyn reached into her coat pocket and removed the memory card she had withheld the night before. This came from the bus camera. Dean stepped forward too quickly. That camera was destroyed by the flood. Evelyn turned toward him. How would you know? Dean stopped. The fluorescent lights hummed above them. Rain slid down the garage windows in thin gray lines. Marcus held out an empty evidence envelope rather than his bare hand. Evelyn placed the card inside. Make a copy, she said. Do not change the original. Marcus nodded. That is the only way I will touch it. He connected the card through a write-protected reader and created an exact digital copy. Most of the video files were corrupted, but one early recording opened. The timestamp showed 5:12 Friday morning, nearly 11 hours before the bus entered the flooded underpass. Bus 214 sat alone in the school transportation yard. Then a white Vail Transit Service truck entered the frame and parked beside it. According to the district schedule, no repair visit had been authorized that day. Marcus advanced the video one frame at a time. A man in a Vail jacket opened the rear engine compartment. Another figure remained near the bus door, watching the lot. His face never turned toward the camera, but the glass door reflected his hand against the morning light. A large gold ring flashed on one finger. Evelyn leaned closer. Walter wears that ring every day. Marcus did not answer. He enlarged the reflection without altering the original file. The shape became clearer. A square black stone surrounded by gold. The same college ring Walter Pike had tapped against the workbench when he ordered the bus condemned. Dean whispered, "That does not prove what they changed." Marcus saved the frame, recorded its source, and closed the file. "No," he said. "But now we know who was standing beside the engine before it failed." Then the damaged recording produced one final image. The Vail mechanic lifted a silver box from the truck, and on its side, plainly visible for less than 1 second, were the characters Lot 6C. Professor Calvin Rhodes arrived shortly after noon carrying a sealed engine control module from the community college training fleet. "This part is certified. It has never been installed in this bus, and I will witness every step." His words landed cleanly in the damp garage. Beyond the open bay, Saturday clouds hung low over the school district, and water still gathered beneath bus 214 in shallow mirrors. Marcus Reed checked the seal on Calvin's case, photographed the serial number, and placed the paperwork beside the evidence log. Evelyn Price stood near the passenger door. Helen Ward held her legal pad. Nia sat safely behind the yellow floor line, coloring beside Marcus's toolbox. Evelyn looked at the replacement module. "If that starts the engine, everyone will finally believe you." Marcus studied the wet wiring beneath the bus. Starting is not the same as being safe. The children need their route. They need to come home from it too. He inspected the brake sensor connectors, the air pressure wiring, and the main electrical harness. Water had not reached the original control module, but it had entered several lower connections. Marcus dried each plug with low-pressure air, cleaned the contacts, and measured resistance before reconnecting anything. He tested the air brake system twice. One rear sensor produced an unstable reading. Dean Harlan watched from the office doorway, impatient and pale. Just install the module and turn the key. Not yet. You already proved the old box was wrong. I proved it failed before the flood. I have not proved this bus is ready to move. Grant Vale appeared outside the bay with 2 local reporters. He wore a concerned expression and carried an umbrella large enough to shelter everyone except the truth. Mr. Reed is delaying the district's recovery, he announced. My company offered a free solution this morning. Marcus did not look toward the cameras. He replaced 1 damaged fuse with an approved part, documented the change, and left the brake sensor untouched because it required independent inspection. Grant raised his voice slightly. Parents deserve to see whether this machine runs. Marcus turned at last. Parents deserve more than a demonstration. The garage fell quiet. He installed Calvin's certified module, connected the scan tool, and asked everyone to step clear. The first key turn powered the dashboard. Warning lights appeared, then began disappearing one by one as the system completed its checks. Marcus waited until the air pressure reached the proper range. He turned the key again. The engine started. Its deep idle filled the garage, steady and even, while the remaining water trembled across the concrete. Evelyn covered her mouth. Helen stopped writing. Dean gripped the office door frame. Grant's smile vanished. Marcus watched the readings for 30 seconds, recorded the voltage, then shut the engine down. One reporter called out, "Why did you stop it?" "Because the brake sensor still needs inspection." "But the bus works. The engine works." "That is not the same promise." Evelyn looked at Marcus with something deeper than gratitude. He had been given the moment that could make him a hero, and he had chosen responsibility instead. Calvin removed the test module and resealed it. "The engine, primary wiring, and fuel system are functional," he said. The original control module was the critical failure point. A telephone rang inside Dean's office. The call transferred automatically to the garage speaker because the office handset had been left off its cradle. Walter Pike's voice filled the room. "Delete the scan history before anyone from the state sees it." Dean rushed toward the telephone. Walter continued, unaware that reporters were listening. "Insurance needs one cause. Do not give them a second one." The line went silent. No one moved. Marcus checked the garage recording indicator. The call had been saved with its time and date. Then Helen returned to the damaged camera files. A second audio fragment had finally finished processing. Static cracked through the speakers, followed by Grant's unmistakable voice from Friday morning. "Use the same lot as the other 12. Evelyn turned toward the row of school buses visible beyond the rain. Marcus looked at the sealed module marked Lot 6C. Bus 214 was no longer the only vehicle carrying the lie. By Sunday morning, the rain had stopped, but the garage still smelled of wet rubber, old oil, and something harder to name. Fear had settled into the building overnight. Marcus Reed arrived before sunrise and found Helen Ward waiting beside the side entrance with a banker box pressed against her coat. "These are copies." "Copies of what?" "Purchase orders, inspection forms, and payment records from the district archive." Helen looked toward the empty road before stepping inside. "I checked the numbers after hearing that recording. They do not match." Marcus did not open the box immediately. He photographed the sealed lid, wrote the time, and asked Professor Calvin Rhodes to witness the transfer. Then they spread the documents across 2 work tables beneath the fluorescent lights. Evelyn Price read invoice numbers aloud. Helen compared dates. Calvin checked serial prefixes against the manufacturer database. Marcus drew 3 columns on a sheet of brown packing paper. Confirmed. Suspected. Unverified. He refused to move anything from one column to another without a second source. The first invoice claimed Bus 214 received a certified module from Lot 9A. The module inside the bus came from Lot 6C. A second invoice charged the district for the same serial number on Bus 188. A third placed that identical number on Bus 302 6 months later. "One part cannot be installed in 3 buses," Helen said. "Not unless paper can travel farther than metal," Marcus replied. They continued. 13 buses carried records connected to Lot 6C. 8 later suffered failures blamed on lightning, heavy rain, or road flooding. Every emergency replacement request had been approved by Walter Pike. Every contract had gone to Vail Transit without competitive bidding. Every inspection form carried Dean Harlan's signature. The pattern grew across the wall. Complaint, delay, unrecorded service visit, electronic failure, weather explanation, emergency contract. Evelyn stared at it for a long time. They did not wait for old buses to fail. Marcus placed another invoice beneath the others. It was dated 2 days after the flood, but it billed the district for replacing the module in bus 214. No, he said quietly. They prepared to profit from the failure. He created digital copies and sent them through the official reporting portal to the State Inspector General. Another copy went to the community college server. A third remained with Helen at the school. No single person would carry the whole truth alone. Near noon, Evelyn closed her blue logbook. There is something I have not told you. Marcus waited. She took a slow breath. My daughter is Maya Brooks. Helen looked up sharply. Calvin stopped typing. Evelyn continued. She is the governor. Marcus glanced at the evidence wall, then back at Evelyn. Does she know about this? Not yet. Why not? Because I needed to know whether we had evidence or only anger. She studied him. Now we have both evidence and a reason for the state to listen. Marcus shook his head once. Your name can open a door. It cannot carry this case through it. Evelyn's expression softened. That is why I trusted you. A black sedan entered the lot 20 minutes later. Grant Vail stepped inside alone, carrying a leather folder. His manner was gentle, almost respectful. He placed a written offer on the workbench. It promised to pay Marcus's overdue rent, finance a garage in his name, and guarantee 5 years of service contracts. In return, Marcus would surrender the original control module and sign a confidentiality agreement before Monday morning. You could give your daughter stability, Grant said. You could stop being punished for doing the right thing. Marcus read every page, photographed the offer, and slid it back. If that module is worthless, why are you offering me a future for it? Grant's eyes cooled, but his voice remained smooth. Think carefully. I already did. After he left, Marcus refused Helen's suggestion to release everything online. A public argument can be called revenge. A verified record is harder to bury. Then the office telephone indicator began blinking. An old voicemail had been saved overnight. Dean's voice filled the garage, thin and frightened. Walter, I signed the forms you wanted. I told myself they were only paperwork. But I did not sign up for children to be trapped in floodwater. The message ended with a click. Evelyn reached for her telephone. It is time to call my daughter. Marcus looked at Dean's dark office. First, we give him one chance to tell the truth while he still has a choice. Dean Harlan returned to the garage after sunset on Sunday, carrying no umbrella and no explanation for why his hands were shaking. Marcus Reed stood beside the evidence wall while Evelyn Price, Helen Ward, and Professor Calvin Rhodes waited near the work tables. Nia sat in the office with headphones and a spelling workbook, close enough for Marcus to see her but far enough from the conversation. Dean looked at the invoices, the photographs, and the sealed engine control module. You found all of it. We found what the records prove, Marcus said. What do you know? Dean closed the bay door. For several seconds, only the old ceiling fan moved. Then he opened the office safe and placed a red ledger, a stack of printed electronic messages, and 6 inspection forms on the table. Vail Transit kept this place open 3 years ago. Grant sent us small district jobs when the bank was ready to take everything. And what did he ask for? Signatures. On inspections you never performed? Dean lowered his eyes. At first, the parts were already installed. I told myself I was only confirming someone else's work. Then Walter started sending forms with earlier dates. Grant said the district needed clean records to approve emergency replacements. Helen opened the red ledger. Payments from Vail Transit appeared beside bus numbers and weather-related failure reports. 6 more vehicles were scheduled to be declared beyond repair during the next month. Marcus traced the pattern without touching the page. They installed unreliable modules, ignored the warnings, blamed the failures on weather, and sold the district replacements. Dean nodded once. I did not know bus 214 would stop near floodwater. Evelyn's voice remained calm. You knew children were riding in it. Dean had no answer. He pushed a document toward Marcus. It offered him half ownership of Harlan Auto. Take this place. I will retire. Give me the module, and I can settle the rest quietly. Marcus looked through the office window at Nia sounding out a word beneath her breath. Ownership would mean stability. It would mean no landlord waiting on Monday and no employer reminding him that gratitude had a price. He folded the document and returned it. You are offering me the garage because you are afraid of the truth inside it. I am offering you a future, not one built on the same lie. Dean's shoulders sank. Marcus placed 2 empty evidence envelopes beside him. You have 2 choices. Turn over every record, give a complete statement, and stand beside it tomorrow, or let these documents speak without you. Will you protect me? I will protect the employees who did not know. I will not protect you from consequences. Evelyn watched Marcus offer Dean a path toward honesty without offering escape. After everything he did, you still give him a choice? She asked. A chance to tell the truth is not a chance to avoid it. Dean signed both evidence seals. Then his telephone rang. Grant Vale's name appeared on the display. Marcus activated the speaker only after Dean nodded. Grant spoke without greeting. By Monday morning, that bus will be scrap metal. Your garage will follow if you cannot control your mechanic. Dean looked at Marcus. The module has already been copied. Silence answered from the telephone, followed by a quiet click. Evelyn stepped outside and called her daughter. The evidence is ready, she said. Now power must prove it deserves to touch it. At 10:43 that night, every computer in the garage went dark. When they restarted, the diagnostic files were gone, the security archive had been erased, and the camera drive was missing from the office cabinet. Dean stared at the empty screen. We lost everything. Marcus opened Nia's school backpack and removed the small notebook where she had recorded times, labels, and witness names exactly as he instructed. Then Helen confirmed the school copy. Calvin confirmed the college server. The Inspector General's portal showed a completed upload. No, Marcus said. We lost 1 copy. At 7:58 Monday morning, Walter Pike stood outside Jefferson Public School beside a polished podium and a banner promising safer transportation. Grant Vale smiled near a model of the district's proposed new bus. At 8:15, a line of black government vehicles turned into the parking lot. Evelyn rose from the folding chair beside Marcus. My daughter is here. The first government vehicle stopped beside the school entrance, followed by 3 more. Governor Maya Brooks stepped out wearing a dark blue coat, but she did not walk toward the podium. She crossed the parking lot to Evelyn Price first, embraced her briefly, then faced the gathered parents, reporters, school employees, and students. Today, Mrs. Price is a witness. She is not here as my mother. Walter Pike gripped the sides of the podium. Grant Vale adjusted his tie. Marcus Reed stood beside bus 214 with the sealed engine control module resting on a folding table between Professor Calvin Rhodes and a state transportation inspector. Nia remained with Helen Ward near the school doors, holding her notebook against her chest. The morning air was cold and clear after the weekend rain. Sunlight touched the wet pavement, and every camera lens turned toward the bus that had already been declared worthless. Walter stepped forward. Governor, this event was scheduled to announce a safer transportation plan after an unavoidable natural disaster. Then the evidence should support that statement, Maya replied. She turned to Marcus. Tell us only what can be verified. Marcus did not raise his voice. The official report says floodwater destroyed the engine control system. The water line stopped nearly 3 inches below the control module connector. The module bolts carried fresh tool marks. Its final communication failure occurred at 4:18 Friday afternoon. The bus entered the flooded underpass at 4:36. The inspector checked the scan report against the dashboard camera timestamp. "The times match," she said. Marcus continued. The visible label did not match the part listed on the district invoice. It was removed under continuous recording with 3 witnesses present. Calvin placed the signed evidence log beside the sealed bag. Helen provided the archived purchase order. A representative from the Inspector General opened the original digital upload received Sunday afternoon. Each record came from a different source. Each pointed in the same direction. Grant smiled patiently. A mechanic can misunderstand damaged electronics. Marcus stepped back from the table. That is why Professor Rhodes performed the independent review. Calvin explained that the circuit board showed a concentrated processor failure without the mineral patterns expected from broad water exposure. He confirmed that a certified replacement module allowed the engine to run normally while the bus remained stationary for testing. Walter interrupted. "Running an engine proves nothing about whether the vehicle is safe." Marcus met his eyes. "That is why I shut it down and refused to move it before the brakes were inspected." A murmur passed through the parents. Maya raised one hand, and the parking lot settled again. The transportation inspector cut the evidence seal in full view of the cameras. She lifted the silver false label and exposed the damaged serial number underneath. Before she read it aloud, Grant stepped forward. Lot 6C was never installed on bus 214. The silence came so quickly that even the flag rope tapping the pole sounded loud. Maya looked at him. "Mr. Vale, no one has identified the lot number." Grant's mouth opened, but no answer followed. The inspector read the serial number and checked it against the manufacturer database. "This module belongs to recalled Lot 6C. Calvin displayed the recovered video showing a Vale Transit truck beside bus 214 early Friday morning. The reflection of Walter's college ring appeared in the glass. Then the final audio fragment played through the school sound system. Evelyn's recorded voice said, "The warning light is back. I need to stop the route." Walter's voice answered, "Continue driving. The replacement approval is already moving." Static filled the speakers. Grant's voice followed. "If it fails, record water as the cause." Walter turned toward Evelyn. She chose to drive into the underpass. Helen placed the stamped maintenance complaint on the table. She reported the failure 3 times. Dean Harlan walked from the back of the crowd carrying the red ledger. His face was pale, but his voice was clear. "I signed inspections I did not perform." Walter sent the forms. Grant's company sent the payments. He placed the ledger beside the invoices and stepped away. Maya did not celebrate. She asked the Inspector General to verify the payment dates, the repeated serial numbers, the camera source, and Dean's statement. One by one, the officials confirmed the chain. Only then did she speak. "Effective immediately, the emergency replacement contract is frozen. Every vehicle connected to Lot 6C will be removed from service for independent inspection. Mr. Pike is suspended. Pending investigation. Vale Transit records will be secured. Route 7 will receive temporary transportation today." Grant stared at the exposed module as though a small metal box had become heavier than his entire company. A reporter called toward Marcus. "When did you learn Mrs. Price was the governor's mother?" "After the engine started." "Then why did you spend the weekend repairing the bus without pay?" Marcus looked through the crowd toward Nia and the children waiting beside the school doors, but he did not answer yet. Marcus looked through the crowd toward Nia and the children waiting beside the school doors. "I did it because Monday morning was coming whether anyone told the truth or not." The reporter lowered his microphone slightly. Marcus continued, his voice quiet enough that the parking lot had to listen. "Those children needed a way to school. Their families needed an honest answer. I was not trying to become important. I was trying to make sure nobody was left standing at the curb." For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Governor Maya Brooks turned toward the district superintendent. "Temporary buses will begin serving Route 7 this afternoon. No family will be charged, and no student will be penalized for an absence caused by this failure." The superintendent nodded, no longer looking toward Walter Pike for approval. State investigators secured the red ledger the duplicated invoices, the recorded calls, and the engine control module. Grant Vale was escorted to a private interview area by investigators, without spectacle and without the cameras being allowed inside. Walter surrendered his fleet office keys. Dean Harlan remained beside Marcus, not asking for forgiveness. By noon, the first inspection results arrived. 13 school buses had records connected to recalled Lot 6C modules. 6 were immediately removed from service. 3 carried serial numbers that had already appeared on other invoices. The fraud was larger than Bus 214, but the old vehicle had become the first machine in the fleet that someone had refused to bury. Dean signed a full statement. He agreed to return the improper payments, surrender his inspection authority during the investigation, and testify about every form he had signed. "I kept saying I had no choice," he told Marcus outside the garage. "You did," Marcus replied. "You were only choosing the easier one." Dean looked through the open bay at the young mechanics who had known nothing about the scheme. "Will they lose their jobs?" "Not if you stop using them as a shield." Dean nodded. It was not forgiveness. It was the beginning of responsibility. That afternoon, Professor Calvin Rhodes and 2 state inspectors completed the brake, electrical, air pressure, and road safety tests. Marcus replaced only the approved parts listed on the work order. He documented every connector, every reading, and every mile of the controlled test. When Bus 214 finally earned its new inspection sticker, nobody called it a miracle. It was something more honest. It was safe because people had done the work correctly. Governor Brooks offered Marcus reimbursement for his hours and a permanent position directing fleet safety for the state. Marcus accepted fair payment for the weekend, but he declined the full-time office. "My daughter needs a father who comes home," he said. "And this county needs mechanics who know they can speak without losing everything." Instead, he agreed to serve part-time on an independent safety board. His conditions were simple. Drivers would have the unquestioned right to stop a bus when warning lights appeared. Every vehicle would receive third-party inspections. A paid apprenticeship program would train local students in diesel repair, documentation, and public responsibility. The first available transportation funds would go to reliable service, not ceremonies. Evelyn Price stood beside her daughter as the agreement was signed. "You could have asked for almost anything," she told Marcus. "I did," he said, watching Nia climb the steps of Bus 214 with her classmates. "I asked for them to be safe." Evelyn later joined a statewide training program for school bus drivers. She taught them to record every warning, keep copies of every report, and never confuse obedience with responsibility. Dean reopened Harlan Auto under independent oversight. His name remained on the building, but his signature no longer carried authority without verification. Late that evening, after the last temporary bus had returned and the investigators had taken the evidence, Marcus walked back into the quiet garage. Nia was asleep in a chair near the office, her notebook resting on her lap. On the workbench lay a new folder marked Statewide Fleet Audit, Phase 2. Marcus looked at it, then at the clean space where the sealed module had been. He did not keep the false label as a trophy. He had already surrendered it with the evidence. He lifted Nia gently, carried her to the pickup, then returned for one final moment. A small puddle remained beneath the place where Bus 214 had stood. Marcus pushed a mop across the concrete until the floor was dry. Then he turned off the lights. The garage fell silent again, but this time the silence did not belong to men who had hidden the truth. It belonged to a father whose dignity had spoken clearly enough for an entire state to hear.